My son and his wife went on a trip and left me to take care of her mother, who had been in a coma after an accident. As soon as they left, she opened her eyes and whispered something that made my blood run cold. I never thought that at 64 years old, I would discover how little I truly knew about my own son. Grant had always been distant, even when he was a child. He wasn't cold exactly, just never affectionate. I told myself that was simply his nature. Not everyone shows love the same way. I held on to that belief for years, especially after he married Emily 3 years ago. Last Tuesday morning, Grant called me. His voice had that familiar tone, polite but distant, like he was calling out of duty, not love. "Mom, Emily and I need to take an emergency trip to Seattle," he said. "Her mother had another episode, and we can't leave her alone." Emily's mother, Marianne, had been in what doctors called a vegetative state for 6 months. She'd been that way since a serious car accident caused severe brain damage. Grant and Emily had moved hospital equipment into their guest room, turning it into a private care space. Marianne lay there day and night, breathing through machines, never responding to anything. "Of course," I said right away, though something in his voice made my stomach tighten. "How long will you be gone?" "For days. Maybe 5, he replied. After a short pause, he added, "A nurse will come twice a day to check her vitals and medications. You just need to be there in case of emergencies." I should have asked more questions. I should have wondered why they didn't hire full-time care if Marianne needed constant supervision. But I didn't. I was just grateful that my son needed me. On Thursday morning, I arrived at their house in Riverside with a small overnight bag. The house was beautiful but always felt cold to me, no matter how perfectly decorated it was. Emily opened the door and smiled. Her smile was practiced and polite, never reaching her eyes. "Thank you so much for doing this, Laureen," she said. "Mother has been very peaceful lately. The doctors say she's stable, but we just can't take risks." Grant appeared behind her, already checking his watch. "Our flight leaves in 3 hours. The nurse will be here at 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. every day. All medications are labeled in the kitchen." They led me to the guest room. Marianne lay motionless in the hospital bed, machines softly beeping around her. Her silver hair was brushed neatly, and someone had applied pink lipstick to her pale lips. She looked like she was sleeping. "She hasn't shown any signs of awareness in months," Emily said quietly. "Sometimes I talk to her, but the doctors say she probably can't hear anything." Something in her expression didn't match her words. There was no warmth in her eyes as she looked at her mother. Grant kissed my cheek quickly. "We'll call tonight. Emergency numbers are on the fridge." Then they were gone. The sound of their luggage rolling across the floor echoed through the house. The front door closed softly, but it felt final. The house fell silent. I stood there for a moment, listening to the steady beeping from Marianne's room. I went back in and gently adjusted her blanket. When I brushed her hair back, my fingers touched her forehead. That's when it happened. Her eyes opened. I gasped and stepped back, my heart pounding. Her blue eyes were clear and focused, locked onto mine. "Thank God," she whispered. I was starting to think they'd never leave. I felt dizzy. "Marianne, you're awake." She tried to sit up and winced. "Please help me. I've been lying still for so long. Everything hurts." I helped adjust her pillows, my hands shaking. "But Grant and Emily said you were in a coma." She gave a bitter laugh. "Oh, Laureen, there's so much you don't know." She squeezed my hand tightly. "They think I'm in a coma because that's what they want everyone to believe." I sat down beside her. "I don't understand." "They're drugging me," she said quietly. "Every day, sometimes twice. Emily gives me injections that knock me out. She tells everyone they're prescribed medications. They're not." I felt sick. "Why would they do that?" "They're stealing from me," she replied. "They need me unconscious so I can't stop them." My heart raced. "Stealing what?" "My bank accounts, my investments, my house in Portland. They forged my signature and claimed I gave them power of attorney. They've already taken over $200,000 from my retirement." I shook my head. Grant would never do that. He's my son. She looked at me sadly. Your son is not the man you think he is. And Emily, she's worse. I felt nauseous. How do you know all this? Sometimes I fight off the drugs, she said. Long enough to hear them talking. They think I'm unconscious, so they don't hide it. Last week, Emily was laughing on the phone about how easy it's been. She said pretending to cry at the hospital was the hardest part. My chest felt tight. This can't be real. It gets worse, she whispered. They aren't planning to keep this going forever. I heard them arguing about when to let me slip away naturally. I stared at her. They want you dead. She nodded. And I think you're in danger too. The room went silent. What do you mean? I asked. You're their witness, she said. When something happens to me, you'll be the one who says I never showed any signs of awareness. The truth hit me all at once. They were using me. You can still leave, she said softly. I can't. I walked to the window. Outside, everything looked normal, kids playing, people walking dogs. It didn't match the horror inside that house. Tell me everything, I said. From the beginning. She took a deep breath. The accident was real. I was unconscious for a week. But when I started waking up, Emily told the doctors I was confused and dangerous. She convinced them that bringing me home for palliative care was the kindest option. Emily handles the medical manipulation, but Grant is the mastermind behind the financial fraud. The word fraud made my stomach turn. My son, the boy I raised, sung lullabies to, worried over through scraped knees and broken hearts, was a criminal. How long has this been going on? I asked. The drugging started about 3 months ago, Marion said. At first, it was mild sedatives, supposedly to help with my agitation. But gradually, the doses got stronger. Some days I'd be unconscious for 18 hours straight. Her voice grew stronger as she spoke, as if telling the truth was giving her back some power. The financial transfers started right after they brought me home from the hospital. Small amounts at first, a few thousand here and there. But once they realized how easy it was, they got greedy. How much have they stolen? I asked, my voice barely audible. As of last month, when I was conscious long enough to overhear a phone call, nearly $400,000 from my accounts. My house in Portland is up for sale, though I never signed any papers. They forged my signature using some legal loophole about incapacitated family members. The number made me dizzy. I thought about Grant's expensive car, the renovations in this house, Emily's designer clothes and jewelry. I'd assumed Grant's consulting business was doing well. I suddenly asked, Mrs. Patterson, is she part of this? Marion shook her head. No, she's legitimate. But Emily times the injections perfectly. She gives me the strongest dose about an hour before each nursing visit. Mrs. Patterson has never seen me anything but unconscious. What about the machines? The monitors? They're real, but not connected to any hospital system. They only track basic vital signs that as long as my heart is beating and I'm breathing, everything looks normal to anyone who doesn't know what to look for. A chill ran down my spine. You said they're planning to let you naturally slip away. What does that mean? Marion paused, tears in her eyes, but her voice was steady. I overheard them discussing it 2 weeks ago. Emily was researching how to gradually increase dosages to cause respiratory failure. She found medical forums about drug combinations that mimic natural complications in coma patients. The room spun. They're planning to murder you? I whispered. Yes, she said, and make it look like a tragic but expected outcome. The family did everything they could, but sometimes these things just happen. Marion wiped her eyes. Emily has already started preparing Mrs. Patterson. She talks about how my breathing seems labored, how my color isn't right. She's laying the groundwork. I jumped up. We have to call the police. We have to stop this. With what proof? Marion asked gently. It's my word against theirs. The medical records support their story. The financial transfers were done with forged signatures. And I'm supposed to be in a vegetative state. But you're conscious. You can tell the truth now. Can I? She asked. Or am I just a confused old woman with brain damage making wild accusations? Her voice carried the weight of someone who had thought through every scenario. Emily has been careful to create a paper trail showing my supposed mental decline. She even had me diagnosed with early-stage dementia based on her reports to doctors. The systematic deception was breathtaking. "How long do you think we have?" I asked. "Based on what I overheard, they're planning the final phase when they get back from this trip. They wanted me to have a few days under family care before the tragic turn." Marian looked at me, desperate but determined. They needed a witness who could testify to my peaceful final days. That's where I came in. The realization hit me. They didn't need me for care, they needed an alibi. A devoted mother, willing to care for a supposedly unconscious woman. Who better to vouch for their dedication and grief when I finally died? All those calls over the past months, asking about me, offering help, I thought Grant was growing closer. He was keeping tabs on me, making sure I was stable, reliable, and unsuspecting. Marianne's voice was gentle but unflinching. "I'm sorry, Laureen, but your son has been manipulating you just as much as he's been manipulating everyone else." The last hope I clung to shattered. Grant didn't need me. He didn't love me. He was using me as an unwitting accomplice in murder. "What do we do?" I whispered. Marian gripped my hand, eyes blazing. "We're going to beat them at their own game." Over the next hours, Marian shared more of the truth. We spoke in whispers, even alone, as if the walls might betray us. "The first time I realized something was wrong was about 4 months ago," she began. Her voice grew stronger. "I was starting to recover, remembering things clearly. That's when Emily began telling the doctors I was having episodes." "What kind of episodes?" "I supposedly became violent when she helped me with basic tasks. I didn't recognize her, screamed, tried to hit her. She even showed up to a doctor's appointment with scratches on my arms. Scratches she gave herself. I felt sick imagining Emily's performance. And the doctors believed her. Why wouldn't they? She was the devoted daughter, exhausted from caring for a traumatized mother. She cried during appointments, talking about my confusion and aggression, even bringing Grant to confirm her stories. What did Grant say? He played his part perfectly, talked about how hard it was for Emily, how worried he was for her mental health. He suggested medication might calm my aggression so Emily could provide better care. The deception was stunning. The doctors prescribed sedatives, mild at first. But Emily kept saying they didn't work. She painted me as violent and confused, descending into madness. Each visit made me seem worse. Marian paused. Then the doctors prescribed stronger medications. That's when Emily began preparing her own injections. She'd show the doctors the bottles, but also added her own drugs. I think she has connections from her previous job. Previous job? She worked in a rehabilitation facility for elderly patients. Fired 5 years ago after some investigation involving patient medications. Nothing proven. I think that's how she and Grant met. Not at a coffee shop, but through her work. Marian shifted uncomfortably. Grant has always been drawn to easy money. Remember when he got in trouble for selling fake IDs in high school? I did. Grant had been suspended, and I'd spent hours at the principal's office making excuses. I thought he'd outgrown it. He didn't. He just got better at hiding it. "This isn't just about money," Marian said, voice sad and weary. "They enjoy it. The control, the deception, the power over someone helpless." "What do you mean?" "Sometimes when they think I'm unconscious, they talk to me anyway. Emily whispers how pathetic I am, how no one will miss me. Grant talks about the trips they'll take with my money. They've turned my suffering into entertainment." Rage built inside me. They want to finish before the holidays. They've already booked a Mediterranean cruise. Using my money, they want me gone so they can enjoy it without worry. $15,000 for a month-long luxury cruise. They'll act like grieving family members afterward. Marian leaned back against the pillows, breathing carefully, as if every word now had to be measured. "They think they've planned for every outcome," she said. "But they've underestimated one thing." "What's that?" I asked. You, she said simply. I shook my head. I'm just an old woman who came here to help. That's exactly why you matter, Marian replied. You're trusted. You're invisible to them. They don't see you as a threat. The truth of that settled heavily in my chest. Grant had never seen me as capable of much beyond casseroles and quiet obedience. Emily barely acknowledged my presence unless it served her image. That blindness might be the only advantage we had. We need evidence, I said. Something real. Something they can't explain away. Marian nodded. I've thought about this for weeks. I just needed someone on the outside to help me. She explained that the medications Emily used weren't all prescription drugs. Some came in unmarked syringes, stored in a locked box inside the bathroom cabinet. Emily assumed Marianne was always unconscious when she prepared the injections. She never locks the door, Marian said. She talks on the phone while she does it. Brags sometimes. My hands clenched into fists. Then we document everything. But carefully, Marian warned. If they suspect anything, they'll move faster. That night, after making sure the house was quiet, I did something that made my heart pound like I was committing a crime myself. I searched. I checked the kitchen first. Everything looked normal. Too normal. Then the bathroom. Behind neatly folded towels, I found the lockbox Marian described. Inside were syringes, vials with handwritten labels, and others with no labels at all. I didn't touch anything. I used my phone to take photos. Clear ones. Every vial. Every syringe. I made sure the time and date were visible. When I returned to Marianne's room, she watched my face closely. It's real, I whispered. All of it. She closed her eyes, relief and fear mixing in her expression. Good. Now we need proof of the financial fraud too. That part was harder. Grant handled everything digitally, but Marian remembered something important. There's a file folder in the home office, she said. Emily keeps it hidden behind old tax documents. I saw it once when I was pretending to be unconscious. It has printed bank statements and real estate paperwork. The next morning, I waited until Mrs. Patterson finished her visit and left. Then I went to the office. Grant's desk was immaculate, almost sterile. But behind a cabinet, exactly where Marian said it would be, I found the folder. My hands shook as I opened it. There were bank statements showing large transfers. Power of attorney documents with Marianne's forged signature. Emails printed out, discussing timelines and asset consolidation. One line made my stomach drop. Once everything is finalized, we can stop worrying about witnesses. I photographed every page. That evening, Grant called. How's everything going, Mom? He asked casually. I forced my voice to sound calm. Fine. She's been very peaceful. That's good, he said. You're doing a great thing. The words felt hollow. I realized then how easily he lied. How often he must have done it. After the call, Marian looked at me. He sounds relaxed. He thinks he's already won, I said. We decided to act before they returned. I contacted an old friend of mine, Helen, whose daughter worked as a legal assistant. I didn't explain everything, just enough to ask what to do if someone suspected elder abuse and financial exploitation. Her response was immediate and serious. She told me exactly who to call and what documentation would be needed. The next day, I made the call. Adult Protective Services. Then a financial crimes unit. I expected fear, panic. Instead, I felt something else, clarity. They instructed me not to confront Grant or Emily, not to let them know anything had changed. They would handle that. On the fourth day, Grant and Emily returned home. Emily rushed to Marianne's bedside, putting on her familiar performance. Mother, we're back, she said softly, stroking her hair. Marianne didn't respond. She lay still, breathing evenly. Emily smiled, satisfied. Grant hugged me. Thanks again, Mom. We really couldn't have done this without you. I looked at my son and felt a deep, aching sadness, but also resolve. You're welcome, I said. That night, Emily prepared an injection. She didn't notice the small camera now hidden on the shelf. She didn't notice the difference in dosage from the prescription. She didn't notice the car pulling up outside the house. The doorbell rang. Emily frowned. Who could that be? Grant answered the door. Within minutes, the house was full of strangers. Officials, investigators, officers. Emily panicked. What is this? What's going on? Grant's face drained of color as they began asking questions. Marion opened her eyes. Fully. Clearly. I'd like to speak for myself now, she said. Emily stumbled backward. That's impossible. One of the investigators turned to her. We have evidence to suggest otherwise. They presented the photos, the documents, the video.